I know I've mentioned this before, but I want to talk quickly about your responses and your synthesis that you've done. And I want to do this just to prepare you for the stuff that you're going to be doing this week. Overall, your work was pretty good, and you don't have that much to improve as you keep doing this. Let me show you how you did well. All right, let's open a good one. Here, this one begins, first of all, with a very specific idea to respond to. That money can crowd out the responsibility of citizens and trigger the sense of corruption internally. I like how it's using a specific idea from the talk. Next, the writer compares this idea to an old saying in Chinese, which I like, right? Adds some flavor, some nuance to this idea. I think it also matches this word here. But even better, we have two comparisons, really quick, to two different sources that have talked about this that we have already encountered in the class, the Crash Course video and Graeber. And they say it is, to some extent, nice, more nuanced transition word here, inverse to the definition of Crash Course, that money is the account of value. I like this because, it doesn't agree, it's actually opposite. That's kind of interesting. And then we have, and the purpose of money, Graeber talks about that money can measure the compensation after angry action. So two different ways that don't really match this idea, which I like comparing that. And then we get a little conclusion in here. The only thing I think that we would like to see is a little bit of the writer expressing more of what they think. So we have this idea from Sandel that kind of contrasts what we've learned from some other sources in the class. How does the writer weigh in? Why is this? A little explanation, maybe one sentence where the writer gives kind of their take about the difference between these two different sources. But otherwise, really nice job there. Here's another one that does a pretty good job. So here, again, we start with a specific idea. Skyboxes is not good for democracy. Different classes in society lose the opportunity to exchange the experience of a common thing. Again, we're taking a good idea from the talk to respond to. Similarly, in the Crash Course video, military was raised and resulted in the appearance of coinage and slavery. Okay, later on we'll see how this fits in. This, however, is not similar to that. This is some background information. I think we need to change this word, but they actually go in an interesting direction here. It says, as different classes between the rich and slavery, there wasn't democracy. In my opinion, this is not fair for the whole society, for people in different classes didn't know what the life of other classes be like. So again, we made a comparison back up to this idea in here. So that's some good explanation of how we see this in another source in kind of a different way. And then they add an example from their own experience, or from China here. The government got rid of this, and only the rich now can afford home teaching, which creates, again, differences between these two classes of people, which may hurt democracy. Now, is China a democracy? Probably not. So maybe some terminology could be changed in that, and some language things could be fixed, but otherwise, nice response. There is a little bit of advice I want to give you to make sure that you keep doing a good job on these responses. And the first one is just writing and formatting related. Take a look at these. First one is quite simple. As you can see from the title of this, I don't want you starting sentences with conjunctions like so and. Maybe you know this or maybe not, but in academic writing, please don't ever start sentences with so, and, or but. These words are coordinating conjunctions meant to combine different clauses. So you have one sentence and you say something else that relates to it, or but if it contrasts, or so if it gives a result. But they're used to connect sentences, not to start sentences. And the final thing is another formatting thing. So this one, again, has these ands. Stop doing that. But also, one, this should be double spaced. But more than that, there's this. In English, we put a space after punctuation. So when you have sentences like this, that's just wrong. I also occasionally see people do this with a comma. Need a space there. So make sure you have those spaces. I know it's a small thing, but it makes such a big difference. It just looks so wrong to me. The last piece of advice I want to give to you is watch out for just sharing your opinion. I know that in the original chart that I showed you when I showed these responses, you want to mention, of course, the text that you're watching. You want to mention other course sources that come from that. But you also want to mention yourself. But that does not mean that you want to give your opinions. We don't really care what you think simply because you're just a student in this class. What we do want from you is, one, the connections you see between the different texts, but also not really your opinions as much as your experiences. What have you seen or done that helps you understand this topic? So share experiences as opposed to opinions. Here's one that just relies a little too much on what the writer thinks. So we start here after watching the video. One, name the video. I was totally in line with the main idea in the video that overemphasizes that market rules can do harm to society. So they're saying that they agree. And then they explain what that means. And then, they kind of just showing, I get this. This is what happens, and this is what it does. And here's an example, but it's an example from the video. That writer just said, I agree with this, and while that could very well be true, it doesn't really add anything. It doesn't give a good response. Again, you need to, one, that didn't have any connections with any outside sources, and two, it didn't draw on any experience that the writer might have that might show why they believe that, or how their ideas have changed, or didn't make any outside connections. So make sure you're not really just focusing on if you agree or not with the text or what your opinion is. But I want to see you making connections between other sources and bringing in other things that you know that help us understand and respond better to these ideas that we're encountering in class. That's what you do in a response. That's synthesis. So I look forward to seeing more of those from the In a Nutshell video and from the money stuff. Again, keep it up. Make sure you mentioned all the parts that you need in the synthesis. Check out for those formatting errors and don't rely on just your opinion. See you later.